children to do this year, the Queen Quet coming to Hunter for this year, Gullah Geechee TV Nayshun News. Hunter children to look around, Hunter knows it, man, that they home in. Okay, well look at me, they up in Rocky Mountain National Park. So Hunter can see where me today at, right upon the lake. Where else Hunter going to find me at upon the water and thing like that. Well, me day up with this year National Park Relevancy Committee and thing like that, where me to serve on now. So we hope, say, some of this year when Hunter yet upon this year program, make Hunter farm stand why these your parks so important and thing like that, and why Hunter children have to come from the indoors to the outdoors. So if Hunter to study me upon the TV, you can turn them off now and go outside and just take in a little bit of the air, yeah? This year the Queen Quet head upon the body of this year Gullah Geechee Nation, and Hunter know this year the work going on.
I love so many people in this room, and I know the work of so many people in this room, and people have been doing this stuff for a long time. And so this is a sort of a moment to have all of these, all of you, all of your ideas, all of your creativity, all of your stuff in this circle. And I know you all participate in a lot of different kinds of circles over time. And for me, this is really a momentous moment. So this is called the Relevancy Committee. And as my experience and what I understand in the last few years of engaging with the National Park Service on this topic, the Park Service is interested in how they are going to retain and even regain some relevancy, as we go into the 21st century. And in particular, looking at diversity, and I like to say difference, actually, because there's all kinds of difference at the table, and really kind of expand that notion a little bit. And so many of you have been working on that for some time. So that's not new. But what's new for me is when you get something like a big government agency really getting it and saying, yes, we're going to provide the moment so that people can do that. And, because you know how I am, and I just got to say what's on my mind, it's not just the usual suspects at the table. Right. You've got some other folks at the table, too, that are thinking outside of the box. So for me, this is really an important occasion.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Audrey Peterman, and I'm from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I'm here this morning because I was invited, and it seemed to me a watershed moment. It's a tipping point. It's as big as it can get in my thinking that the agency that is the National Park Service is actively looking for a relationship with people from the grassroots community who are engaged with introducing and reconnecting people of color to the national parks. So, as I said, I'm here because I was invited. I think that's a really key thing, to invite people. Why I think this is important is because on Sunday I will celebrate my 60th birthday. I'm really very proud and happy about that. And I count my life kind of in terms of AP and, well, BP and AP, BC and AD. For me, it's BP and AP. Before parks and after parks. I learned about the National Park System when I was 44. I experienced my very first park, that was Acadia. And in the intervening 16 years, I have now been to 159 units of the National Park System. And my goal is to go to all 394, and by then I hope we've added another couple hundred. To me, the park system is a really, really key facet of American life that is kind of like underutilized. I've had the luxury of physically introducing, I'm certain, at least 10,000 people to the national parks. And I see the awakening, I see the joy, I see the freedom, I see the whole feeling of being connected to something so much bigger than themselves that happens when people see these grand, lofty places, or when they go to Independence Hall or Valley Forge National Park and recognize that African Americans and Native Americans and Latinos and Asians were among the people who left their bloody footprints on the snow at Valley Forge with George Washington in the Continental Army in 1776. That means a lot to me. I see how much that means to young people and how it gives them a much bigger vision of who they are as Americans. And so I think that this moment in time is so significant because the American people are so desperately in need of inspiration and reconnection. And I think the National Park System and our public land system in general offer those opportunities if we only give people the information and the opportunity to have the experience.
That's a hard act to follow because I think I believe everything that Audrey was just telling us. My name is Judy Burt. I'm the mayor of the town of Grand Lake, Colorado, which if you leave Estes Park and go over Trail Ridge Road, you will come down at Grand Lake. We are the west gate to this wonderful 3,000-acre national park. And I am the elected official that serves on the National Advisory Board. I was appointed by the Secretary a little over a year ago. And I do believe that the future of the national parks are also the future of their gateway communities and all communities in this country. Without the relevant interaction between the national parks and our communities, how can we ever face a future in which these jewels of our country are protected? And even as a small community, we have 471 permanent residents. And those residents, I was telling some people earlier, it was amazing to me when I would go to our school children and have government days and so forth, to find out that less than half of our students living 2 miles away from one of the best national parks in the world had never been within the borders of the national park. I think that is a terrible tragedy that our children are not learning about the history of who they are, about the mining industries, the agriculture industries that are a part of our country. So I think that in order to take our children back to understanding the history of who they are and where they come from, is that my 3 minutes? I think it's a really, really sad thing that we have to correct, that we have to do as communities.
Hi everybody, I'm Jared Manos. I'm the founder and CEO of Great Plains Restoration Council. And I came to this work because I saw the violence that people do to the earth. There's the violence people do to each other, and that we often accept into ourselves. I live in the Great Plains, and no region has been more stricken or recipient of violence than our prairies and plains. So I thought that I also saw that there was a culture of separateness. So we founded this movement, Ecological Health, which helps people take care of their own health, the balance of the body, and help the planet, the prairies, which are like we're in Houston, so the coastal prairie, there's less than 1% left. So it's a deep process of recovery. We have 2 programs, restoration, non-incarceration, and Plains Youth Interaction. We operated a satellite program that was run by Gullah folks up in Pine Ridge, up in South Dakota, and we have bought for the Park Service a 4,600-acre addition that was in danger of being bought by a prairie dog killing club. We're still holding it for you because the Badlands National Park couldn't move quick enough, but we still have that. We are working with the Army Corps of Engineers on a 20,000-acre recovery project along the Gulf of Mexico, and a 2,000-acre, $25 million tallgrass prairie preserve southwest of Fort Worth, and we're also doing some work in New Mexico. I think that one of the problems when you're looking at relevancy is that really we treat the planet like it was just there, and we treat our bodies like it was just there. And there's this ongoing state of dis-ease or illness, and personally I believe that the American story is a story of people on the land, and wherever we live in our ecosystem. And even if we're in the hood, we still share the same sun, storms, wind, and water. We're still prairie people, and yet we have so little left. And if Earth is dying, animals are dying, and now people finally are in this spiral of inevitable doom, I don't want to accept that. We don't have a Great Plains National Park. But it would be, beyond that, I think we can bring the wilderness even into our own lives.
My name is Ernesto Pepito, and I manage leadership programs at the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy there in San Francisco. And I think probably the biggest reason why I'm here is, even though I've been working there for 10 years and been engaged in kind of the National Park Service work, for myself and many of the people who've been there for 10 years, we're in no way satisfied with what we've accomplished. And year after year, we feel like we've inspired a lot of people and connected a lot of young people to their environment, to the park. But but there's still this kind of flaming, burning passion and desire to do more. And so I think that's in a lot of ways driven our work to keep growing and to keep inspiring other places and other parks to really rethink how they're engaging young people. But the other reason why I think I'm here is, I was fortunate enough to work for 8 years with Superintendent Brian O'Neill, who has now passed away. And from very early in me starting there, he really wanted to listen to me and what my vision for engaging young people were. And he didn't want to speak for me or speak for those young people. He wanted the rest of the Park Service and his colleagues to hear from me themselves. And so he started to bring me along to trips and go to Washington and to Portland, even to South Africa, to try to give me an opportunity to share my vision and my experience in the national parks and what that means to me and my community and the young people I work with. And this past few years, I've gotten to do a lot of traveling, and I always think about him and how much he supported me, and again, just the act of listening, how important that was in that relationship, and how important listening was to the success of the Chrissy Field Center. So that's why I think I'm here, and why it's now relevant is this. I think this is a mature enough conversation that it's not about just popping out. It's not about defining why we need to do this. We're now, the conversations happen enough where it's really time for that next step. I love the point of it's not about another fancy brochure. It's how can we work together to, what is that next leap? So that it's not just on to the next subject, but something real tangible can come out of it. Some real tangible action or movement happens.
My name is Matt Cohen. I'm from Burlington, Vermont. And a lot of my work, I guess, is really about connection and relationship. I was invited to be part of this conversation and this work by Carolyn. I guess it's a deeply personal body of work for me, too. I grew up pretty disconnected to nature and met probably when I was about 18 or 19 a tracker who began to reveal to me all the things that I was missing, all the patterns on the landscape that had been completely invisible to me for many years. And slowly through the practice of tracking, I began to deepen my own relationship with what I think is my birthright, a deep connection to the land that I'm part of. So I've been very interested in how that happens, how it's possible for people to reconnect in a very deep and profound way to the land. And in that process, I've also become aware of some other invisible tracks, and those are some of the tracks of disconnect that connect people across ideological boundaries, across cosmological boundaries, race, class, gender, sexual orientation, and for me, these two bodies of work, the rebuilding of relationships across people and across nature, are inseparable. And so I'm here because I really believe that the national parks are a place where this work can happen. It's a place where some of the healing that is so desperately needed at this critical moment in time can happen between people and the land and across divisions that have existed for a really long period of time. So I'm really grateful to the Park Service for doing this, for convening this, and I'm really hopeful from the stories that I've already heard in this circle that something is possible, that the conversation is mature enough for us to really take some strides forward. So, thank you.